Today, we're going to be going over how to create a function on your Twilio console that will allow you to view or export a list of all your active numbers under that account SID. The first thing you want to do is log into your Twilio console, and we're going to come over to the navigation menu on the left. Now, your navigation menu may not look like this. I use regions. If it doesn't look like this, that's okay. You may just have the standard list here. We're going to go into functions and assets. Now, if you do not have functions and assets visible in your menu bar, you first want to go down to explore products. You're going to need to search for functions here, and you'll want to go ahead and pin it so that it'll show up on your sidebar on the left. Once you have functions on the sidebar on the left, you want to come in to services here. And we're going to create a new service. You can give the service any name you'd like. I'm going to name mine export all numbers. Now you'll have to use a dash or an underscore, as here spaces are not accepted. You'll get an error. This is going to bring us to the main function page here. So here, we're going to be creating functions and assets that this service is going to use. This is where we're going to need our Git repository. So here, we're going to be in the Git repository here for list numbers, and the two folders we're going to work out of is assets and functions. First, we're going to go ahead and start with the functions here. So I'm going to open up functions, and we'll see there are 3 files. We're going to create each of these files in our functions on the Twilio console. The first one I'm going to do is get account. So I'm going to open get account, come into Twilio console, I'm going to click add function. And we're going to name this the same as the file, get_account, except we're not going to put the .js. We're just going to name it get_account. We're going to take all the content that it preloads with here. This is kind of like a demo suggestion. We're just going to delete this. We're going to come into our Git repository and we will copy and then paste it in here and save. We're going to repeat this process for the remaining 2 files. On GitHub here, we can go back to functions using the tree navigation or the breadcrumbs. So here's the breadcrumbs or the tree navigation here. So I'll go back into functions, and the next one is list numbers. So add a function, list numbers, click away, and then we'll create this function, delete the content in the function. There's also an option here on the right to copy the information, so you can click copy here. Paste. Save. And the last one we're going to do here is going to be mask account. Come over here, add function, mask account. We'll delete the content here, copy from the Git repository, and paste here. And save. So now we have all of our functions created. We're going to create our assets. We'll come into the Git repository. I'm going to go back to list numbers here and into our assets folder. Within assets, we see there's 2 files, index.html and styles.css. We'll go ahead and start with index.html. This is going to be a bit larger of a file. I'm going to copy. Come into the Twilio console, we will add. Now this time we're going to click add asset. For this one, we want to name it index.html. We want it to be the same as the file this time, so we do want the .html at the end. And here we will paste the information we got from there and save. The next one is going to be, go back to assets, styles.css. This one's a bit smaller. I will copy. In Twilio console, we will click add assets, styles.css. Paste this in and save. Now we have all of our functions and assets in the console that we're going to need. Now we're going to go ahead and set some environmental variables. So down here in the settings and more, we're going to go to environmental variables. Here we're going to add a key. Our key is going to be password. And for this example, I'm just going to put a generic password. So here we can see the key is password value here. It's a generic value. You set it to whichever you like. You can edit it or delete it if you would choose, but we do need the password here for this function to work in this case, and we do want the key to be password. This will be the password value you enter in the application to give your users or yourself access to use the function once it's created. Now we're going to go ahead and click on Deploy All. This is going to take just a minute to finish building. Now here we see the green check mark deployed to environment. We're going to go ahead and check some dependencies here on the application. So let's click on dependencies. First thing we're going to check is the node version. We want it to be version 18. It's 18, so that is great. The next, we're going to check a couple of the modules. The first module we're going to check is the Twilio module. This one we will most likely have to change. We want to click edit and change it to the little up caret 3.61.0 and click update. The next item we're going to check is the @Twilio runtime handler here. We want it to be at least 1.2.1, which it is, so that's fantastic. Now, since we changed one of the values, we need to go ahead and click deploy again. So we're going to deploy. Now here we see it was successful. Now we're going to go ahead and change the permissions on all these to public. Now that we have our public functions and our variables and dependencies set, we'll do a final deploy here. All right, that was the last step we need. Now we can use our function. So to use your function, you want to come into the index.html and you want to copy the URL. Once we copy the URL, you'll come into a new web browser and paste it in. This is going to go ahead and load your application. And so here we have the password. I have the generic password that I created, and I can click list all numbers. It's going to show it's in progress, and it's going to show me my account SID and the phone numbers that are attached to my account SID. I can select to pull from a simple single sub-account SID or download the numbers without listing. I can clear the list or also download list numbers after I see them. And that is how you build the Twilio function on your console account to download or see a list of all active numbers on your main account or a sub-account underneath that main account. If you have multiple main accounts that you want information from, you'll want to repeat building this function on each of those main accounts within the Twilio console.